BlackRock is giving you 48 hours, and there's not a lot of time left to be able to accumulate Bitcoin. I want to talk about why that is. Some of the crazy stuff that's coming out today in Bitcoin world and crypto land. If you don't mind, hit subscribe, turn on the bell notification underneath the video so you can see future videos like this one where there are new players coming into the market. Stay through to the end of the video because there is some crazy stuff happening and you want to see future videos. You want to be tuned into this market. Also, there is a link down there to Margex in case you want to trade cryptocurrency on leverage. I've been trading, and when you scroll out, we've been pretty much up only for the last year and a half. It's been a great time to trade. I know some people don't like trading, but you can also go low leverage and just go long, right? That's something that I've been doing in a lot of my positions is, I might trade something short term. Maybe there's some resistance or support, which I'll buy or sell at, but then I take some of the profits and I just go long like 3x or 5x, 10x on Bitcoin and Ethereum, and that can be really good too. There's also a link down there to HGAalgo in case you want an indicator that helps you with dollar cost averaging and investing. Now, Bitcoin still sitting around this $57,000 range. Pretty strong support that we've seen here. As you can see here, like we fell down to 56.2 and then it got bought right back up. Ever since those ETFs were approved, we really haven't seen many drawdowns. Of course, we fell down to 40,000 or a little bit under 40 after the ETFs were approved, but then we consolidated, then we moved up, then we consolidated a little bit, then moved up, then consolidated, then moved up, consolidated, and now another big move up. There haven't been big pullbacks like we've seen in the past. That's because there's so much buying pressure. As you can see here, we talked about this this morning, but 9,200 Bitcoin being bought up this morning, hoovered up by these ETFs, and it looks like we're going to have another record-breaking day. Massive trading volume for the ETFs today. IBIT is number 5 of the 3,400 ETFs and well ahead of Vanguard's VOO. I talked about this yesterday. Like, they're crushing VOO. VOO has no real net inflows, like a little bit, right? A little bit every day, but it's not mostly net inflows like IBIT. Also, their fees are 1/5 that of IBIT. And IBIT, again, BlackRock's ETF, is doing crazy volume. It's doing 552 million. And if we scroll down at noon today, so less than halfway through the market, this is noon Eastern time, IBIT was at 808 million in volume, on pace for a new record. GBTC was at 425 million. Some people think it might actually be a day of inflows, the first day, but let's hold out on that. FBTC at 300 million. These are record-breaking numbers, even from yesterday. Right? These are nuts. And this is just the beginning. Larry Fink has said you have to force behaviors, and they do that at BlackRock. He got some pushback on this, but he pushes behavior. He pushes people to invest certain ways. He pushes people to push certain narratives. And right now, the narrative is Bitcoin. As you can see here now, Fidelity now recommending 1 to 3% crypto allocation in your portfolio. Gateway Drug, what happens when 1 to 3% becomes 3 to 6%? Slowly, then suddenly. Now, this is their Canada part of their business. So imagine this happens in the US. Right? This is a very conservative 60-40, but 40 being the equity, 60 being fixed income, and they're still saying put 1% into Bitcoin or into crypto. In this 60-40, the traditional 60-46% equity, 40% fixed income, they're saying 2%, and then in these more aggressive portfolios, put in 3%, they say. Imagine this starts happening in the US, right? They say buy 2%. Well, 2% of $4.5 trillion, that's $90 billion. When you go buy $90 billion worth of Bitcoin, it spikes up the price. Depending on who you are, you have different ideas of how much that pushes up the price, but 100x multiple on that is nearly $1 trillion in added market cap if they go allocate 2% of their AUM. That's absolutely nuts. And they're not the only one selling it. As I said, BlackRock's also selling it. And it's easy to sell because the daily dollar cost averaging of Bitcoin, stocks, bonds, and gold, starting when Bitcoin was at an all-time high, Bitcoin beats everything. Bitcoin's 107% up, Nasdaq's 31%, S&P 500 19, gold 9, bonds negative 9%. Imagine your 60-40 portfolio, and half of your portfolio, or 40%, is actually down over the last 2 or 2.5 years. Like that would be hard to look at. Of course, you've gotten some money, you've gotten some payouts or some dividends, but yeah, it's still hard to look at when Bitcoin's up 107%. If you had 1% Bitcoin and then maybe 39% bonds, this would have pulled up your whole portfolio a decent amount. So that's something to consider. Now, with all that in mind, we have talked about Bitcoin hitting all-time highs in other countries. We've talked about Sweden and Norway, Japan, and now we also have it in Israel. It's hitting a new all-time high in their own currency, the ILS, which honestly I don't even know what that is, but 170 currencies in the world. US dollar holds up better than almost everything, if not everything. And yeah, it's close to hitting all-time highs here. So day after day, when we move up $1,000, we're probably going to hear about 4 or 5 more currencies that Bitcoin's hit an all-time high in. And as I said earlier, like when that happens, it just gets pushed around on social media, on websites, that it's hitting a new all-time high, and then people ape in. Now, I covered this about 10 days ago that banks are nudging the SEC for a slice of the sweet Bitcoin ETF action. They aren't really able to hold crypto assets, but they did send in a letter to Gary Gensler. They pled their case. Basically, they highlighted the recent approval of the spot Bitcoin ETFs and the fact that American banks were absent from the approved products as asset custodians. They want to hold crypto, and specifically Bitcoin. They want to hold Bitcoin for clients. Now, it's probably going to start with like the really wealthy clients, and then it will eventually move down after all the wealthy clients have bought their allocations. But maybe that's why Jamie Dimon is so bearish on Bitcoin all the time, because he's not able to offer it. As soon as they are able to offer it, well, okay, then we'll start being bullish. Now, the reason I said BlackRock's giving you 48 hours, I'll be honest with you, I'll level with you. There is a reason for it. But part of it too is to give you a sense of urgency, right? This is a time where you don't want to be sitting on your hands. You don't want to be tuning out of the market. You want to be paying attention, because there are big things that are happening every single day. There's huge adoption. There's huge amounts of buying. There's things happening in the background, wheels turning that you don't see, and you need to be plugged in right now. There is a reason though that I say 48 hours, right? And people like certain timelines. Right now, there have been 47 days since the ETFs started trading. 48 days since they're approved, 47 days that they've been trading. Now, the Bitcoin countdown for the halving is about 51 days, depending on where you're looking at. So in 2 days, it will have been 49 days since the approval and 49 days until the Bitcoin halving. A lot of these banks are going to be pretty pissed off. This is also going to be 2 weeks since they pled their case to Gary Gensler. They're going to be pretty pissed off when they see these ETFs buying. We're halfway to the Bitcoin halving, and they still haven't started the ability, or they still don't have the ability to custody crypto assets. So BlackRock has, maybe 48 hours until this time where the banks are probably pushing again. We need to be custodians. We see how many Bitcoin the ETFs are buying, right? For example, right now, they bought new over 300,000 Bitcoin. These new ETFs have bought 300,000 Bitcoin. That's Bitcoin that's not being bought up by JP Morgan, by Bank of America. Let's do some quick math. 300,000 Bitcoin times the price today, 57,000. So just so far in the last 1.5 months, they now have 17 billion in AUM. 17 billion. Now, what if we multiply that by that 0.02, the average, let's say the average is 0.3% fees. Well, that's an extra 51 million that's basically going to their bottom line that these companies are going to make annually. Now, what if Bitcoin goes up to 100,000? $100,000 Bitcoin, that means that they would make about another $90 million a year in fees. I think Bitcoin's going to go a lot higher than that. I think they're going to get a lot more Bitcoin than that. I think they're going to hit 1 million in Bitcoin between these new ETFs, and yet the banks are still left out. So BlackRock is swallowing up Bitcoin, right? I said 48 hours. It's a little bit arbitrary. Obviously, they're always buying. They've had net inflows, I think, every day so far. Keep this in mind too. Like, even if there are people that are bullish on Bitcoin, there are also people that will hear that BlackRock's buying and Fidelity's buying, but then they'll hear Jamie Dimon say that it's not the right time, it's BS. They'll go on and hear Jim Cramer, and then they'll just be conflicted. If someone says to buy something and someone says not to buy something, a lot of people are just trying to avoid any future pain, so they're not going to buy. But what happens when the banks get approved to start custodying Bitcoin? Well, Jamie Dimon flips bullish. More people flip bullish on it. It goes up. Everyone is going to jump in. If everyone tells you to buy an asset saying that it's the best performing asset of all time, we're buying it like crazy, and everyone you hear says it's a good buy, you're probably going to feel like buying. So anyone that's held out, that's just a little bit cautious, is going to ape in. And yeah, we don't know when that's going to happen, but yeah, it's getting much closer. If you haven't already started buying Bitcoin because you're a little bit worried that maybe we'll fall back down, right? It's not the time to be worried. It's the time to make sure that you have an allocation to dollar cost average and to make sure you're set up, because we're not going to get an opportunity like this again, maybe ever in our lives. We're never going to see an asset that penetrates traditional finance like this. One that came from nothing, right? Less than a penny. I'm making a video right now. About 14 years ago, 15 years ago, you could have bought a Bitcoin for the same price as one of these mints, right? We're not going to get an asset that goes from the cost of a Icebreaker's mint that is now breaking through traditional finance to be a 2, 3, 4, 5% allocation in well-balanced risk portfolios. Well-balanced, not even risky portfolios, but conservative portfolios. We're not going to get that. So if you haven't already bought, it's not necessarily too late. There's still a lot of people that haven't started buying. Like I just saw a poll by Edward Snowden, and he's talked about Bitcoin a lot. He did a poll to see how many people had bought Bitcoin. It's about 40% of his audience had bought Bitcoin, and he's someone that is very against the establishment. So we live in a bit of an echo chamber. You go walk down the street, talk to 10 people, probably one has bought Bitcoin, maybe two, right? So we're still early. Just sit on your hands for a little bit. Make sure that you don't get itchy sell fingers, in my opinion. Of course, if you get some nice gains, you might want to take some profits down the road, but not on Bitcoin. Now's not the time, in my opinion. One other piece of news, Aether Games is going to be having their TGE on March 7th. This is a huge opportunity, I think, for a lot of people, but of course, sometimes the price spikes up and then falls down and then kind of levels out and then comes back up if it's a really good crypto. But I think this is going to be really big it's going to be really big in the Web3 space, in the gaming space. They haven't launched, or they haven't told us the launch time or exchange, but that's going to be coming soon. So keep your eyes on this. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. I'm going to go, I think, since it's so nice outside, I think we're going to go to happy hour and get a couple margaritas and some tacos. Let me know what you're doing today in the comments section. I appreciate it. I will see you in the next video. Again, there are links to Margex and HGAalgo underneath. Bye.